I've been doing some hiring for my client the past couple of weeks, and it really got me thinking about something that I wanted to share with you that will revolutionize how you think about hiring. And not only save you time and energy, but pretty much guarantee that whoever you actually sit down to interview will be a top candidate. My goal is that you never have to get on another Zoom wondering if the person you're about to interview is a fit or not, and then finding out 5 minutes into it that it was a waste of both y'all's time.
Welcome to the Biz Doctor Podcast, my love letter to business owners the world over. I'm your host, Lauren Goldstein, award-winning business consultant and advisor fondly nicknamed the Biz Doctor by my clients. I help business owners who are burning the candle at both ends diagnose what is actually keeping them buried in the day-to-day busy work, and then formulate a treatment plan to adjust their business and team to fit them, so they can take a breath and a vacation and have more fun making a bigger impact than ever. So grab your favorite beverage and your earbuds, and let's dive into our latest episode.
Today, I want to kick us off with a little story. Tell me if this has ever been your process. You decided you need to have somebody basically yesterday, so you throw up a job description on Indeed that lists out bullet points and experience and criteria. Then you wade through the sea of resumes trying to decipher the fiction from the facts, and all of a sudden your calendar is overflowing with interviews. And each time you start an interview, you never quite know if the person on the other end of the screen, or if you're in person, the desk, is going to be a good candidate or not. And suddenly, instead of running your business, your entire schedule has been taken over by trying to hire for this role that you need urgently. I have been there. I remember it was 2016, and I had to basically pause the entire business because I had so many interviews on my calendar. And I just couldn't get out from underneath it because every time I got on a call, I was like, this isn't the right person. So finally, I waved the white flag and I talked to one of my friends. And he shared something that has forever changed how I hire, which is really what I want to dive in today. Because if you're like me, I'm pretty sure you've been exactly where I just described. So fear not, you're not alone. As I just shared, I was in the same boat till I figured out a better way. So how do we get you out of that uncertainty and show you a better way to find the people who truly will make a difference on your team and your business and help you get back time? The way that we get you there is by helping you start to treat your hiring process like a leverage system. Here's some interesting facts about hiring. It can take almost 100 hours to hire for a role. Between the prep, the process, the onboarding, that's a lot of time that you cannot afford to wait a second of. In addition, up to 30% of employees' first-year earnings are lost in a bad hire, and 46% of all employees are deemed failures by the 18-month mark. Holy smokes. I do not like those stats, and my hope is that what I share with you today will ensure that you are not one of those continued stats. So most business owners approach hiring like old school gold miners. They stand in a river, scooping up handfuls of dirt, hoping to find a nugget of gold. Hours, days, and weeks go by as they sift through worthless rocks, hoping for a lucky break. But here's the problem. You're not a gold miner. Also, that sounds terrible. And your time is too valuable to spend sifting through dirt. Instead, you need to build a filtration system that does the panning for you. So by the time you're looking at a candidate, they're already 90% pure gold. So what are the biggest culprits of sucking your time? First and foremost, resumes. They're outdated and frankly, they're unreliable. Unstructured interviews, whether having too many interviews with unqualified candidates or you just don't have a clear decision-making process. Gut feeling hiring. This is a tricky one because I do believe that the gut plays a role, but when you don't ask the right deep questions, sometimes you're just sitting there going, I think this person's the right fit, but I'm not totally sure. No more of that. And then, of course, not having a process that creates leverage. Been there, done that. How do we get you out of that river of wasted time? First, most business owners don't put enough thought into the role before they hire, so they lack the clarity they need to know what they're looking for and when they found it. I've seen this so many times with my clients over the past 14 years. My Golden Key Scorecard and Interview Power-Up series solve both of those problems, but we'll get back to those two tools later. The other piece that I see trip up most business owners and suck up more time than waiting for a furniture delivery is this: not having an intentional process that is testing your candidates in real time. Now, I'm not talking about a mock skills assessment here. You know, when you ask them to create a project to prove they can do the job, those can be helpful, but down the road, this is not that. I'm talking about intentionally setting up your process to test for the thing you can't teach someone: critical thinking and follow through. So back to my mining for gold analogy. You want to filter out the bulk of time wasters and not a fit candidates as fast as possible. Now, I remember hiring for a director of people for one of my fractional COO clients a few years ago, and we got a tsunami of applicants that I had to wade through. I think at the end of the day, it was something like 1,500. And I remember that when I was wading through all of those things, I did it incredibly fast because I knew what I was looking for and I had a process. One day, I went through 510 resumes in a little less than 4 hours, which, if you do the math, is an average of about 20 seconds per resume. Now, I know that sounds absolutely bonkers and like I made that up, but I didn't. I gave myself a cheat code, and here it is. I hid an Easter egg in the job description that required them to do something very specific to apply for the job. And if they didn't do it, they were out. Now, that might sound harsh, but for this role and most of the roles I hire for, I'm looking for players, not worker bees. And players are not lazy applicants. They go the extra mile, and I know they'll find the Easter egg because they want an edge. Now, in addition to that, the second part of this magic is once you've filtered out those folks who are not a fit and who will be time suckers, it's time to test some DNA. Not talking Jurassic Park here. Let me tell you what I mean. I am not a big believer in hiring for resumes. I am, however, a big believer in hiring for DNA. And if you've been listening to the show, you know what I'm talking about. Of course, there is a decreased learning curve if someone is experienced in your industry and tech stack, but here's the truth. You can teach a curious and intelligent person just about anything. What you can't do is make someone a critical thinker who's not. You can make them better if they are, but if they're not from the start, you are SOL. You also can't make someone detail-oriented if they're not, nor teach someone how to like people and be outgoing enough to excel in sales. Now, I know you might have just said, yeah, right, or rolled your eyes, but stay with me. Most of those things people are born with. The best salespeople ask who and love the sales cycle and the chase and all of that. You can try and fit a round peg in a square hole, and who knows, you might succeed for a while, but eventually your chickens come home to roost, and you or them realize that they don't really love the role and they aren't as successful as they could be. So why not set them and you up for success from the jump? I talk about this more in my Interview Power Up mini-series, but the premise is simple. Each step of my process, I'm testing 4 things: their communication, their flexibility with tools they might not have used before, their critical thinking, and their follow-through. Now, I want to give you some more stats to show you just how helpful this truly is. As I shared at the beginning of the show, I'm presently hiring for an office manager role for one of my clients, and I've had about 123 people apply. Of those 123, 11, or about 13%, followed the instructions. Oh, such a bummer. Of those 11, 5 responded to my next step message. Of those 5, 4 got interviewed by me. Of those 4, the top 2 made it through to my client for an in-person interview with the partners. But you know what didn't happen? I didn't have 11 one-hour one-on-one interviews to get the 2. I had almost a third of that, only 4 hours. And I want to take a little segue. I wasn't going to share this, but I feel like I should. One of the calls that I was on was with this guy who had adjacent experience and who presented really well during this process. And through all of my interview questions, if you don't know this, I'm a board certified NLP practitioner. So I always ask questions that are going to get me to the deeper way someone thinks and operates, AKA their DNA. And he kept saying really interesting things that just didn't quite align with what the role was. I could tell that he was very extrinsically motivated by 2 things: money and growth, which are not bad things in any stretch of the imagination. And in fact, if I was hiring for a sales role and not an office manager, 100% would have been a solid candidate. But what I kept coming back to is this person going to quickly get bored and want to move on with this role? Because this office manager role, we're trying to find somebody that's going to be in this position for at least 3 years that's going to really revolutionize how this small business is running. They're kind of the heart of the whole vendor management, client interaction, etc. And the very last thing I wanted for either one of us, him or us, was to hire somebody that wanted so much upward mobility that they would feel stifled and like this was a step back. And so I say all of this because the whole way, the entire process of me hiring is making sure that I'm setting everyone up for success. So I'm asking questions that are not typical questions. Like I can tell you every single interview I've ever had, people will inevitably say, I've never had anybody ask me these questions before. And it's because, yes, your resume matters. Yes, your experience matters. But truthfully, I want to know how you think. I want to know how you interact, how you respond, how you prioritize so that we can be truly on the same page. And if you've heard me talk about players and worker bees, let's be honest, players love to play the game and come with a plan. So I'm always looking for the next step, the unspoken truth, because let's be honest, worker bees struggle if things aren't just so. And we all know running a business is a roller coaster. And even when you have $1 million business that runs on its own, there is never a day where everything is perfect. So we need people who can adapt, think critically, and be proactive. And as you've heard me say before, love that 20% of their job. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's a really, really interesting study about high-performing successful teams done by Marcus Buckingham. Check it out. I don't have time today to go through my whole proven hiring practice, but I will leave you with these 3 things you can do today to drastically change your results and get you out of the calendar crunch. For me, this process has given me a 98% success rate of people who not only are a great fit, but who stay for more than 3 years. Imagine what that kind of success rate could do for you, your team, and your business. Also, if you're rolling your eyes about people staying for more than 3 years, people do that still. It is possible. I promise. You just have to find the right win-win fit for everybody. Okay, so here are your action items. I'm going to continue to shout this from the rooftops till everybody does it. First, do the upfront work to get clear on the role. Not only does this help save you time and money down the line, but it's going to ensure you get the best person for the role and set them up for success. Because from the scorecard, you can easily build out a job description that really tells a story and attracts the right people, not just a checklist that isn't clear. If you're not doing the pre-planning, if this is a new thing for you, fear not. It's not as hard as you think it is. In fact, if you do this, though, you'll probably save a lot of money, not only with your salaries, but with your profitability of your people. Because what I've had happen more often than not with clients is they'll say, I need to hire X. And then when we sit down and do the scorecard, we actually realize that it's 2 roles, or the thing that they thought they needed isn't actually the thing they needed. So it's a completely different hire. Our Golden Key scorecard takes the guesswork out of this process and gives you a paint by numbers way to kick off your hiring. I could not recommend doing this more. Like truly, I really want to drive this home and repeat it until I'm blue in the face. Doing the prep work before you hire is so, so key. And the scorecard is your best friend here. Quick pause before we dive into this next bit. Because if you're ready for more freedom, autonomy, and let's be honest, fun in your business, then this is for you. Our Golden Key scorecard is the best plug-and-play tool designed to help your team run with more clarity, autonomy, accountability, and capacity, so you can focus on driving growth instead of managing chaos. It's the same framework we use with our clients to create high-performing, self-sufficient teams that unlock their next level of scalability, ease, and profitability. If you're ready to step fully into the owner seat and have a business that runs with you, not because of you, then this scorecard is the roadmap you've been looking for. It's going to be the game changer to take your successful business from good to great, not to mention save you a lot of team headaches while we're at it. You can download it for free at goldenkeypartnership.com/go and unlock the next level of success for your team and your business. Now back to the episode. Second, figure out a relevant Easter egg and be ruthless with who gets filtered out. We all know that the cream rises to the top, and this is no different. Now, the Easter egg, just to give you a little tip here, the Easter egg that I predominantly use probably shows my age, but that's okay. It's a cover letter. It is something so simple, but as you've heard in all the metrics that I shared, so many people don't do it. And it's so simple. All I ask for is for them to submit a cover letter and tell me what excites them most about this job. Like, it is not rocket science. It can take less than 5 minutes. They just have to do it, and you would be shocked how many people don't do it. Lastly, put the onus on them. For me, this looks like asking them to send me a loom before we ever get on the call. And when I do give them the green light to come in for a one-on-one interview, guess what? They get a link to book a time through Calendly. There's no back and forth. There's no chasing, just observing. Because again, every single step of this pathway, I'm testing their communication, their follow through, their integrity, their critical thinking. Like, if somebody says, "Hey, Lauren, thanks for requesting this loom. I'll have it to you by the end of the day," and they don't, that's not a good sign. And I can tell you, and I don't like to speak in absolutes, so in just about every situation, because I'll be honest, sometimes I'm like, oh gosh, they have a really great resume. Maybe I'll make an exception. I don't do this anymore, but years ago I used to. And almost every single time I was like, why did I do this? This person was a complete waste of time. It's going the extra mile, which is really the people that you want on your team anyway. It's little drip test as we go. Now, in case you're thinking that this process is a little cold and you're like, Lauren, I want candidates to feel connected and welcome through our process. I hear you. I get it. Fear not. I can tell you over the past 8 years of doing hiring this way, because remember, I, like you, sucked at this before I unlocked the key. I've hired so many people that I've lost count, and I can't tell you how many people thank me for this process or tell me how much they like it, or my favorite, how they saw themselves in the words of the job description, and they just were like, I knew I had to apply to this. Trust me, when you have a proven process like this, you can't keep out the right people, but you will definitely filter out the wrong people. And I have a very funny story about this. So I remember, gosh, I think this was probably maybe 5 years ago, and I was hiring a customer service person for one of my other businesses. And typically I put my Easter egg at the end and as like a little PS, this is how you apply. I've since reworked it a little bit, but at this current time, it was set as a PS. And generally we have this template that we send when somebody doesn't follow the directions to let them know that, like, we appreciated their time, but because they didn't follow the instructions, we're not moving forward with them. And I remember, keep in mind, this is a customer service role. Somebody responded, I wish I could pull it up in this moment, but something along the lines of like, the PS section, are you kidding me? Are we in high school? Do you want to sign my yearbook and go to the ice cream social? And I was so taken aback by her rudeness that I just had to laugh, because I'm like, you're applying for a customer service role, and here you are coming at me for the fact that you didn't follow the process. It makes me giggle, because imagine if I had hired that person and she did that to one of our customers. I would die. I would be so mortified. And so, sure, is this a very methodical, thought out, maybe cold-ish feeling process? It could be, but I can tell you with so much certainty that it weeds out people like magic, and it's so nice. And Indeed today, I mean, you can even have autoresponders that send notes to candidates when they apply. So we have one that says, hey, thanks for applying. It takes us about a day to review resumes, and then we'll get back to you. So there's a lot of ways to bring that human component. The key here, though, as the business owner, you have to protect your time. So do what you need to do to not waste time on people who just are not a fit. And this is the best way that I found it. What I shared with you today is just the tip of the iceberg to get your hiring process running like a well-oiled machine. So if you want to dive deeper or you want to actually know the interviewing questions that I use, I got you. Grab our Interview Power Up mini course, which teaches you how to ask the right questions when you get those A players in front of you to really get to know them and suss out if it's a win-win fit instead of a surface level questions that don't bring clarity. The chances are going to bring not such great results with the hire. Plus, in there, I give you the exact interview process I follow for myself and my high-level clients, step by step, from filling out the scorecard to the job description to the whole kit and caboodle of the funnel that they go through. Plus, I put in some sneaky red flags to watch out for and avoid. Those are also based on a true story. So, take my trial and error and learn from it and collapse the timeline. You can snag it at goldenkeypartnership.com/interview. But I really hope that today you walk away with a sense of relief and knowing that your interview process can be fun. It can be simple. It can be easy. It doesn't have to be like pushing a snowball up a hill. Like it really can be simpler and more effective than you'd ever imagined. And I think that your next hire could quite possibly be your best hire. And we all know that a great hire changes everything. That's it for this week's episode. Thanks so much for listening in and sticking with me to the end. If anything I shared sparked something in you or resonated, I'd love for you to share this episode with your fellow business owners. And of course, rate and review our show so it shows up to more people who need to hear it. Also, I so enjoy hearing from you. So let's connect. Tag or DM me on Instagram at It's Lauren Goldstein or LinkedIn or wherever you hang out on the interwebs. Lastly, don't forget to subscribe so you're the first to get notified when our next episode is live and ready for your ears. Thanks so much for listening. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to the Biz Doctor podcast. Now, I like to say that friends don't let friends WebMD your business. So if you're wondering what your next steps could be, here are some options for you. No matter what, head to the show notes or to my website, goldenkeypartnership.com, for some impactful resources to support you getting out from under your business. That's also where you'll find the links to learn more about our services and how we support business owners, just like you, who are ready to make the successful jump from business operator in the trenches to visionary business owner with more freedom and flexibility. All of that info is on our website, so pop on over to learn more or get in touch, goldenkeypartnership.com. Finally, if you love the Biz Doctor podcast, I'd be so grateful if you would share it with your friends and network and give us a 5-star rating or review wherever you listen to your podcast.
An original from Story Studio Network.